Hi, my name is Lark Orvick-Moore, and I'm here today to read you part of Willa Cather's The Death of the Archbishop. Willa Cather wrote several books, My Antonio, O Pioneers, and she won a Pulitzer for one of ours. I have to say this was one of my favorite reads, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Willa Cather was born in Winchester, Virginia, but at 10 years old, she moved to the prairies of Nebraska, which later became the background for many of her novels. At the age of 21, she graduated from the University of Nebraska and spent the next few years doing newspaper work. Cather devoted herself full-time to writing in 1912, and over the years completed 11 novels, O Pioneer, My Antonio, The Professor's House, and Death of the Archbishop. She passed in 1947. Father Valiant had told the bishop that he must by all means stop by and see Knight of the Isleta, and he would like the priest there, Padre Jesus de Baca, and the old white-haired man, almost blind, who had been at Isleta for many years and had won the confidence and the affection of the Indians. When he approached the pueblo of Isleta, gleaming white across the low plain of gray sand, Father Latour's spirits rose. It was beautiful. What warm, rich whiteness of the church and the clustered town, shaded by a few bright acacia trees, and their intense blue-green like the color of old paper window blinds. That tree always awakened pleasant memories, recalling a garden in the south of France where he used to visit his young cousins. As he rode up to the church, the old priest came out to meet him, and after his salutation, stood looking at Father Latour, shading his failing eyes with his hand. "And can this be my bishop? So young a man!" he exclaimed. They went into the priest's house by way of the garden, walking by the church. An enclosure was full of domesticated cactus plants, of many varieties and great size. It seemed that the padre loved them, and among these hung wicker cages made of willow twigs full of parrots, and there were even parrots hopping from the sanded paths, with one wing clipped to keep it at home. Father Jesus explained that the parrot feathers were much prized by the Indians as ornate for their ceremonial robes, and he had long ago found that he could please his parishioners by raising the birds. The priest's house was white within and without, like all the Isleta houses, and almost as bare as an Indian dwelling. The old man was poor, and too soft-hearted to press the Pueblo people for pesos. An Indian girl cooked his beans and cornmeal mush for him, and he required little else. The girl was not very skillful, he said, but she was clean about her cooking, and when the bishop remarked that everything in his pueblo, even the streets, seemed clean, the padre told him that near Isleta there was a hill with some white mineral, which the Indians ground up and used as whitewash. They had done this for time immemorial, and the village had always been noted for its whiteness. A little talk with Father Jesus revealed that he was simple, almost childishness, and very superstitious, but there was a quality of golden goodness about him. His right eye had overgrown by a cataract, and he kept his head tilted as if he was trying to see around it. All his movements were to the left, as if he were reaching and walking about on an obstacle in his path. After coming to the house by way of the garden full of the parrots, Father Latour was amused to find that the sole ornament in the padre's house, bare little Sala, was a wooden parrot, perched on a hoop that hung from one of the roof logs. While Father Jesus was instructing the Indian girl in the kitchen, the bishop took the carving down from the perch to examine. It was cut from a single stick of wood, exactly the size of a living bird, and the tail was rigid and straight. The head was a little turned, and the wings and the tail and the neck of the feathers were just indicated by the tool and thinly painted. He was surprised to feel how light it was. The surface had the whiteness of velvety smoothness and very old wood, though scarcely carved at all, merely smoothed into a shape. It was strangely lifelike, a wooden pattern of parrots, as it were. The padre smiled when he found the bishop and the bird with the bird in his hand. "I see you have found my treasure. That, your grace, is probably the oldest thing in the pueblo, older than the pueblo itself." The parrot, Father Jesus said, had always been a bird of wonder and desire to the Pueblo Indians. In ancient times, its feathers were more valued than wampum and turquoise. Even before the Spaniard came, the pueblos of northern New Mexico used to send explorers along the dangerous and difficult trade routes down into tropical Mexico and bring back upon their bodies a cargo of parrot feathers. To purchase these, the traders carried pouches full of turquoise and from the Soroyas Mountains in the Santa Fe. When, very rarely, a trader succeeded in bringing back a live bird to the people, it was paid divine honors, and the death threw the whole village into the deepest gloom. Even the bones were piously preserved. There was in Isleta a parrot skull of great antiquity. His wooden bird he had bought from an old man who had been much indebted to him and who was about to die without descendants. Father Jesus had had his eye on that bird for years. The Indian told him that the ancestors generations ago had brought with them from the mother pueblo. The priest fondly believed that it was a portrait done from life from one of those rare birds that the ancient times had carried up alive all along the long trail from the tropics. Thank you for listening.